So, now we're up to item number 10, favourite of mine. The Briggs Road, Marshlands Road, Lake Terrace Road safety improvements. Now, staff come to the table, please. Thank you very much.
See if there's any questions for staff.
Is there any questions of staff? Right, we've got Mark and then Tim. Thank you.
And Yanni.
And Miani.
This includes the ramps into the intersection, I gather, is it?
Yes.
It does, yeah.
Yep. Are these going to be constructed along the lines of Lincoln Road or Richmond Ave in the way of steepness?
Mark, have you
out of
got your
interest.
microphone on?
Yeah,
Right.
microphone's on.
Lincoln Road.
Lincoln Road, so the good steep ones, good to hear. No point in going back to another Richmond Ave mistake.
You done? Okay. Tim?
Thank you. Lincoln Road's fantastic, by the way, and the locals love it. So, what is your feeling with regards to the local feedback with regards to what you're proposing here? Because obviously there'll be a lot of feedback and a lot of comment from people that don't live in the area. But as we found with Lincoln Road, the local community find it so much safer. How is the feedback you've had directly?
So for consultation, it probably was one of the criticisms. We did only receive 4 pieces of feedback, but we've learnt lessons from that consultation to engage further in future with these types of treatments. It will be like Lincoln, Barrington, Whiteley, which a lot of people have travelled through. So it will just be making sure we get the message out that it is coming, that these are the reasons why we're doing it, and that if there are any concerns, that people can contact council once it's been implemented.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yanni, then Tim. Kelly.
Thank you. I'm deeply concerned at the small number of people that have made submissions. 3 submissions, and one group submission. At what point do we, as a council, recognise that maybe we haven't heard from enough people, and look to do more engagement to get more of a community view?
I think that's something we will have to take up with our engagement team.
Because I just struggle to know how I can take on board what the community views are when we've had such a small response. I was also interested to know why we only delivered to 47 residents. It would seem, looking at the intersection, that service is a lot more than just 47 residents.
I think the consultation we've done and the number of people we affect is representative of the changes we're making. It's a big intersection, but it's only the main people that we need to notify are the people that we have notified in that area.
So if we look at the photo, that's pretty much about probably a few more than what's in the photo.
Yeah.
But how many vehicles use this intersection a day?
We could say that with any work we do.
Right.
Any work we do on the road, thousands of people use those roads, but we don't consult with those thousands of people.
So how do you work out what the length is from the intersection by which you notify people?
We do have a process for assessing the level of consultation we do, and that's based on the impact we're having. And the impact we're having here is a local impact to those local people. So that's why we've only consulted on the area we have.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I've got head of service who'd like to comment, please.
To build on what Stephen's just said, the implementation of this work, which you're being asked today to approve just the cycle lane, the rest of it has been approved through both the community boards, just to point that out. It is a local impact in that we are slowing the traffic down. We are not stopping anyone accessing anything. So the local people are impacted because there are no stopping lines in there. That's gone through the community board. But as far as the travelling public are concerned, the impact is we are saying, please go a little bit slower because this is an intersection that has a higher collective risk. And we are reminding them of that through a physical measure. So that's what drove this. The team have already said that they have learnt, they have seen what's happened and had the discussions with the board, and they will take those lessons into future works that we do and future engagements that we do.
Thank you, Lynette. Kelly.
Yeah, my question was really just around the consultation. I'm all in favour of the safety improvements, although perhaps not the raised platforms. So I spoke to former City Councillor Glenn Livingston, who lives 150 metres away from the intersection this week. He knew nothing about it, about the plans, and wasn't generally in favour. So yeah, I think that we do need to go a little wider with consultation. I think 29,000 people use this intersection, and a lot of them from my area in Preston's Park, and I guess
From Rangiora as well.
a few from Rangiora as well. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from them at some stage. But yeah, just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
We'll take that feedback on board. What I would say is the consultation we do is in line with the Local Government Act and our significance and engagement policy. So what we do is everything we do what we need to do, but we'll take your feedback on board and look to the future to see if there is benefit in wider consultation.
Yeah, Moreno, if I can just add to that, Tessa Sant, I'm the manager of the engagement team. Very much what's already been said, we do look at the most affected residents, and it's really around the impact that a project is going to have on their lives. And I hope you can appreciate that at this intersection, safety was the priority. So we're really interested in hearing first and foremost from the people that are actually going to be impacted on a daily basis. And I understand that commuters are part of that, but we're probably more interested in those that might be, noise and feedback we can hear that we can actually influence the project and change. If we're just going to hear from a lot of people that they have an opinion about a safety feature, that can cause problems. But we do hear what you're saying. And for this one, for example, we didn't do social media, which might have captured more feedback.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's a wee bit difficult with social media. I just find it interesting that because I get a lot of requests from people down Lake Terrace Road, like there's an intersection further down the road which I've been trying to flag to council because someone who's recently moved in there has reported, multiple crashes, multiple accidents that are probably not being reported. Simply asked for transport staff to have a look at a stop sign instead of a give way sign. There's been no result there. And also we have the golf club, which has two sides of Lake Terrace Road, and people walking across there every day. And to my mind, those safety improvements for those two areas would probably make a huge difference.
Councillor Barber, not to interrupt you, but
Sure.
that clearly isn't in relation to this item specifically.
No, it's not, but it's a really good time to bring it up.
What I would take from
Good
that
try.
is perhaps there were compounding issues that we should have been aware of, that the public had, and that would have increased our reach. The litmus test for us is really at what distance away from a project is someone just a commuter, and that's really, someone can live 5 kilometres away and use that road every single day, and they're affected more than someone who lives 2 blocks away and they never drive that way. They always go in the other direction. So it's really difficult for us to do that. Who are the most affected? But certainly issues like that, when we talk to your governance team, they should help us understand local community issues that might encourage us to cast the net wider.
Yeah, I think just an explanation for people in the area that I live would help, because they'll come asking me why are we doing this when they go through there every day. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. Tyler.
Most of it's been answered. Thank you, team. Just a quick question around the cycle lane itself. What would happen if it didn't pass today? With the whole intersection?
The rest of the intersection's already been approved. In reality, what we'd look to do, we'd probably still put the white line down as an edge carriageway marking, but we wouldn't mark the cycle symbols.
Gotcha.
So it'd end up functioning as a unofficial cycle lane anyway.
Cool. All right. The next question, I just wanted to get it put in layman's terms for the community to understand is why this intersection around the safety improvements? I know it's been answered so slightly, but something real more clearly would be great.
So as this has been funded through the Christchurch Regeneration Acceleration Fund, and as part of that work, prior to me joining, there was an assessment of all the intersections in Christchurch, and they were ranked based on ongoing risk to users at those points. This is a high-use intersection and controlled by signals, so it will always remain some risk within the intersection, and the raised safety platforms are to help reduce the risk of the severity of crashes when they occur.
Great. And there are reported and non-reported instances, correct?
Yes.
And those non-reported ones also considered from your team?
They are to an extent. We use the crash analysis system, and there is a large factor of underreporting, especially for vulnerable road users in that system. So we can look to apply factors around those crashes. It's not necessarily just about the amount of crashes. We just want to reduce the possibility for further crashes to occur as well. So it's a proactive approach to road safety.
Wonderful. Well, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Aaron?
Yeah, so just happy with the cycleway part. That all makes sense. But getting back to Yanni's point around the sample size of the people using it, changing a major intersection down to a 20k an hour intersection, I would consider to be a significant change to the network. So therefore, the public. So that's not.
No, when you talk about significance in terms of engagement, it's quite prescribed. So we have a significant engagement policy, which is available, and it really clearly outlines the criteria before something is deemed to be of high significance. And this is definitely a low significance project, simply because slowing someone down for 10 seconds of their journey does not change, does not impact on their lives in a significant way. And there are no other factors in terms of cost or risk to council.
So then, my question would be, and no doubt we haven't done the work, but do we know if there's other consequences like changed behaviour? If you change an intersection like that, do people start changing their route, and then what are the consequences, like the intersection down the road where there's no stop sign, so on and so forth?
I think for
or do we believe that people just go, you know what, I love the Humpy intersection, I'll go through there every day?
I think for something like this, it's a relatively minor change to people's commute or daily life. They'll be slowing down for probably 5 seconds, 10, it's not a big part of their life. And the impact on their convenience wouldn't be such that it's going to change their behaviour.
Okay, and I totally understand and respect that is your view and the view of the traffic team, and a couple of councillors have already put a flag in the sand to say that they've had overwhelming positive feedback about Lincoln Road, but that's not the feedback that, and the community board said it as well. But so that would say to me, we've gone out and asked the public what they think of Lincoln Road, and we now know, and the results were, because I heard that on Talkback 4 times and not positive. And I know they are only people, but they are people.
Thank you, members. I just would like to draw our attention to the fact of what it is we're trying to get approval or not for.
Well,
I'm happy to move it,
Madam,
Mr. Mayor.
Madam CE, before I'm shut down, I'm just not sure that we have a mandate to make changes like this in our network, because we haven't gone out and asked the public if they think all intersections, because you could call every single intersection dangerous, should have a platform. I don't think the public have given us that mandate.
That's not the decision you're being asked to make.
I know it's not,
decision
and
has been
that's
made
why I
by
think
the
this
community
report's
board.
at fault.
You'll see it.
Sorry, what was that, sir?
I mean, even if you take the sample size of 47 and we only heard back from 3, normally what happens in consultation is we tend not to hear from people who have no issue with what's being proposed. We hear from the very, very passionate against and those who are advocating for.
So if I went and door knocked the 47, they would all be aware that they're getting a platform?
So that they all had information put through their post box.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Celeste?
I mean, I just wanted to thank staff for the work on this. It's a fairly straightforward decision today. We've obviously already signed off on the other elements at the community board, so I'm comfortable with where we're at. As you've identified, this has come from a recognition that this is a high risk intersection, and we're looking to make a fairly minor improvement to improve security. safety for vulnerable people. So thank you for your time.
And the question is,
That was just feedback to say thank you for your
okay, Sarah.
Thanks. I see that the consultation was open in September, and were the community board aware that the consultation was happening? The community boards at the time, I know boards had changed slightly, and it was up on the council website.
Yes, correct.
Are you aware of any proactive work that the community board did to raise awareness of it?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thanks.
Andrew.
You mentioned that you didn't utilise social media. Is that intentional? Because it
was intentional. Yes,
Yeah.
it was intentional. We tend to, when it comes to safety features, so where we're putting in things that are purely to improve the safety of vulnerable road users, casting the net citywide and attracting feedback from people who have a certain view but maybe have no real need to provide feedback. It's about trying to limit that. However, I think that we've heard from the room that in terms of those people who commute through an intersection and might live very far away, even outside of our district, that's something that they would still like to hear. And of course, when we present our consultation feedback and our analysis to the deciding body, we can let them know where people lived and they can make their own judgment call about whether they regard that feedback to be the priority that they give it. So that's something that we will do going forward.
But would you also would you also intentionally not share in localised Facebook groups, for example, around that intersection? Was that an intentional decision?
There aren't. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know that Facebook can be used very, very well in that regard. This was a low significance project, and it's really around matching your attempted reach with that. There are plenty of projects where we would just talk to the immediate neighbours and not cast. People are over-consulted. People in this city are over-consulted to a certain extent, and we're just trying to make sure people pay attention to the projects that really affect them, rather than that scattergun approach. But again, like I said, we've heard your feedback in the room.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mark.
Thank you. Just one quick follow-up regarding the engagement. Was this put before the community board for the engagement plan prior to the engagement, as it often does?
Not the engagement, but again, because it was of low door knocking, the very immediate and letter dropping the immediate neighbours was, in our opinion, the correct form of engagement. We don't normally ask community boards for approval of our engagement plan. We normally do outline what is proposed. Was it at that?
Yeah, we had sent a memo to the community board advising them that we were going to go out to consult on this.
Yep, cool. I do remember in my time on the community board last term, we did have a number of occasions that the engagement team came to us and asked for our opinion.
When the engagement is bigger, absolutely, we want the community board to be very well aware of exactly what's planned and to provide feedback. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. So what I have here is Jake has moved it and Pauline has rushed in to second it. So is there any debate? Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. I just hope councillors will reflect on what our resident survey is telling us around people's ability to participate, be informed and understand how we make decisions. We have had overwhelmingly negative feedback and high dissatisfaction with how we do things as a council, and that's judged by our resident survey trending in what has been a very frightening direction. So I can't understand how a significant intersection with a significant visible change to it would only get 47 households directly contacted and have such a low level of significance. In my view, we haven't assessed this significance of this sufficiently, and even if we had to have only 3 submissions from people plus 1 from a citywide group, I just don't think is good enough. And it says to me that we need to spend more time engaging with people in this local community. We also have a private plan change that will be a massive development where there is significant traffic impacts on this immediate network, And I think it's the timing of this is really not satisfactory either, because surely we need to wait and see what the planning is for that new development before we spend money making an intersection change to an area that may change in a few years' time anyway because of the new development that's been proposed. So to me, this two reasons why I will actually abstain from this today is we need to spend more time engaging with people. It is totally unacceptable to have such a low level of engagement on a significant project like this that will impact on a number of people in the local community who have not been contacted by us. And two, the timing is wrong. There needs to be a much more holistic approach to traffic and safety in this area with cyclists, pedestrians and motor vehicles, because there's a new big development going on right adjacent to this that still is working through its process. So I'll be abstaining on this today, and think that we definitely need to start reviewing how we do things as a council if this is what we think is acceptable in terms of engagement.
Thank you, Yanni. Any Kelly and then Pauline?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I mean, I'm conflicted here as a cyclist who's cycled through that intersection many times. I applaud these safety improvements. To me, it's debatable whether there is a need for raised platforms at an intersection like this. I think it performs pretty well and has for a long time. I think there were over 10 years, there's been 4 serious accidents. Considering the number of cars that go through it there a day, I understand that. Obviously, it's never acceptable. But I really would like to see a broader conversation had with the general public around changes like this. Today we're just talking about the addition of a cycleway, but I guess we need to have a broader conversation with the general public about why we're doing this, why we're putting raised platforms in here, what we're sort of hoping to achieve, so that they don't come into this intersection in a year's time and go, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? Surely that if they understand it a lot better, they'll be able to tolerate it. And I think that the ramifications of this is that we're going to be spending $400,000 on the safety improvements. People want to know where their money's being spent and why, and it feels like this is the sort of thing that we do for good reasons that the public don't appreciate and therefore become frustrated with when they see this type of change. If they understand it, it's really good. I mean, I've talked to a few people about this, friends, former councillor James Daniels, who loved the idea, former councillor Glenn Livingston, who didn't. So there's a range of thoughts out there. But I think if we can get that communication better, I think it'll be better in the long run for all of us. Thanks.
Pauline?
Thanks. And there always will be a range of thoughts, and this is the difficulty with projects like this. But the main reason for this intersection being identified is it does have high risk, and most of the risk is from red light running and turning. And I think it doesn't matter how many other developments there are up the road, that risk is still going to be there. And staff are aware of the other developments and they're aware of this area and what's going on. So when you've got a high risk area, we have transport experts that come up with the right solution. And that solution is to slow traffic down at the lights. And I think this is the only way to really do it. Bearing in mind we're not actually voting on this today, it's the cycle lane. But I really think that we want to be a can-do council. So it's a very fine line of how much you hold these safety improvements up by going way out there and talking to people. Half of them will say yes, half of them will say no. In actual fact, this is possibly the best solution that she'll end up with anyway. So I think there's a fine line there, and in this case, let's just do it. So I'll be supporting this today. Thank you.
Melanie?
Keep it short and sweet. I think as councillors, we should always be voting in support of safety. So it's quite straightforward. And the thing that concerns me today is that actually councillors don't actually seem to know often what they're even talking about, let alone what the agenda item is. And we need to remember this is purely about cycle lanes, so all of this should focus purely on the cycle lane.
Victoria?
Thank you for that, Councillor Coker. I too am happy to vote and with safety in mind. The issue for me that I just wanted to highlight, I've heard what the other councillors have said today, is that we've got staff who are working within a policy framework around what is a significant project and whether it's a high project or a low significant project. So they've done their job. And perhaps the conversation that needs to be had is whether we need to revisit what that scale looks like in terms of where the low and high significance is.
Thank you. Tim Mathy.
Yeah, thank you. The community board has already sorted out the rise, all that type of thing, and I totally commend them for that. This is about a cycle lane, and I do think that the consultation has been correct for this. This is about a local community, about a local project. And if you are looking at places where local communities have been ignored for the greater good, you could look at Lincoln Road, you could look at Bram Street, you could look at these. This council has changed so much in the last 10 years, and these staff have led that. So I think you've got to remember that too, because if you're going to go wider, why not go to Rangiora? It's Marshland Road, got a whole lot of people, but they are not the local community. So I'm really happy with what's happened, and I totally support it.
Marcus.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you've done on this. I will be supporting these cycle lanes. The one concern I have is very similar to Victoria, and I wonder if we do need to look at revisiting our significance policy. They're looking at the volume of traffic that obviously goes through that intersection. I think I hear what Yanni's saying, that the 47 people sent out the consultation is a little bit on the light side considering the size and traffic volume for that intersection. But that's an issue for another day. I will support this today, but hopefully we can look at the significance consultation policy.
Tēnā rā tātou. I knew the stuff was going to come across the table, and I just tried to figure out how to word it. But one of the things that I always push on is safety of our children and those that don't have voices, particularly around cycle lanes. If we were going to do proper consultation, we'd go to the schools. If you guys are going to be saying that, then that's the case. But outside of that, the system doesn't work for them at the moment. So it's up to us to decide on what we're going to do for our children. Okay, so we have Fairway Reserve, Sanctuary Gardens Reserve, Pagoda Playground, all within a radius of around 400 metres from this intersection. We also have Shirley Intermediate, Kingsley Primary School, Shirley High, and Marion College. Sorry, not Shirley High, the ex-Shirley High. Marion College and Banks have a very close vicinity of this intersection, which could and will be in zone of these schools. So whenever we're talking about cycle lanes, I want everybody, and I've got to keep reminding everybody about this, is around the value of looking after our children and making sure that they have a voice, because you're representing them too. Not just the residents that go, oh crap, man, another cycleway. I can't park here. It's ridiculous. I can't believe we're even arguing over this. You know, these are our children that we're going to be looking after, and I'm getting sick and tired of arguing about this, but it's something that we need to always consider whenever we're making these decisions. It's just simple as that. Now, in regards to the consultation methods, yes, Yanni, you've got a point. Yeah, we could go to schools. But also remember that this intersection is actually funded through SURF. So that's another thing to note. CREF, sorry. So just be aware of all of the things that I noted today. I am going to be voting in favour of the cycleway, as I always will. And I'm going to be the one that's going to be standing up for our kids. And it's up to you guys on whether you guys want to continue to do that. Kia ora.
Sam.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it for too long because I thought it would be relatively straightforward, and I completely get where Kelly's coming from with the stuff that's gone through the community board. But unless I missed something, I thought it would be relatively quick because Stephen mentioned it really clearly. If we don't support it, all they're not going to do is put the little cycle logos on the road. The white line will go through anyway. So we've probably spent a lot of time probably chastising each other for something that in practice is going to happen anyway. So I think just pragmatically, we probably should just let them paint them on the road and get on with it.
Totally agree, Sam.
Tyrone?
I too can't believe that we're actually debating this. Like, we've been blindly worshipping at the altar of cars for generations. It's about time that we started making our streets for people. Thank you.
Right. Okay, we're done. Sarah, where you go?
Thanks. It's really frustrating to hear councillors berate the organisation over lack of consultation and be really distraught at the lack of consultation when several years ago a proposal came to ask the community how they would like to be consulted with. It was going to be a representative group, it was going to have children, migrant communities, all of those things involved. We were going to ask them, how should we engage with our communities? It was going to be $10,000. It was within budgets already, and councillors voted that down, including the member who just berated staff again about the lack of consultation and engagement. I'd like to say how frustrating that is, and it would be great if we could have a representative group of residents again talking to us about how they would like to be consulted, rather than councillors saying, oh, we're just not doing it good enough all the time. Safety changes are a tough one to consult on, and we consult sometimes on these low-scale safety improvements because the Local Government Act basically says we have to. Other safety improvements, often of a sudden nature, we don't consult on. So if a road is badly flooded, we close it, and we may do that for some time. We don't consult on whether we declare a state of emergency, for example. So I have an issue with the fact that we even need to formally consult as if we could do a different decision, if you like, when it comes to safety improvements. As Sam mentioned in the debate last week, as councillors, we don't have a legal responsibility with consequences if we make decisions that end up having health and safety consequences and consequences in the broader community. If we made a decision to not do a safety improvement and someone was injured or killed on our roads in that very area, we're not going to be held legally responsible, but we are morally responsible. We saw in Auckland where there was an intersection and section of road upgrade, and there were compromises made by the organisation in that it was supposed to be a safe cycling one. They decided to leave car parks in, and a teenager was killed on the road that had only just been upgraded because the safety improvements weren't as recommended by the community and the cycling advocate groups. $400,000 may seem like a lot of money for an intersection upgrade, but I'm sure those who were injured in the last 10 years and those who may be in the future would think that that was money well spent. Thank you very much.
Righty-ho. Have you already talked? You're allowed to do two lots of...
He hasn't entered into the debate, has he?
I'm debate. Yeah, I'm debate.
Yeah, we were in, no, I know we're in debate, yeah.
So it's me. Right. As we are only voting on a painted cycle lane, I will be supporting this because of its significance as it's only paint. But we're only voting on the painted cycleway, and I have to say I'm happy with the redesign of the whole intersection, except for the proposal that we put the raised intersection in, as we did in Lincoln Road. It's attracted a lot of negative press for us. And I know you've done the consultation the way it's supposed to be done, and maybe we've got to look at the way we do that, I don't know. But the thing that worries me is, we talk about it being a high-use intersection. Before you know where we are, we'll have every intersection in town will be called high-use, and we'll be spending not maybe $400,000 because there might not be so many cycle lanes and stuff going on it, but we'll be spending a lot of money on a lot of intersections putting raised asphalt in because it doesn't come cheap. So I'll be supporting this day because it is only the painted cycleway, and let's go on. And I'd like to put the motion after Aaron's had a say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will raise a couple of points, and I will support my colleague over here, Councillor Johansson, because a fellow councillor did have a swipe at him over some of the points that he had raised, but I will point out that when it comes to safety improvements at intersections, when a mother of two children that wanted to walk her children to school in my ward come in and asked for us to put in a set of traffic lights, she did not support that, and hasn't for years until we added a cycleway to that intersection. So it's a bit rich to sit here and talk about safety improvements when they're not always supported because of political games at the table, and that's just how this table rolls. When it comes to the platform, and I've got no problem with the cycleway markings, and as we do improve all intersections across the city, I expect there to be cycleway markings put in. It makes perfect sense. I do think they help people. I used to live just down the road from here on Briggs Road for almost 10 years, so I do know the area very well and have been through that intersection many times with my kids. I never really had a problem with it. The accident rate doesn't seem that high. It's certainly not as high as the intersection where this council won't put traffic lights. So I do have issues with the safety improvements around the platform. Yanni was right about the way that the council is being perceived by the public. I don't believe we have a mandate to be putting in the platforms, and we should ask the public. I'm very happy to be proven wrong. If the public come out and overwhelmingly say, we want platforms at every single dangerous intersection in the city, then go ahead and do it. Yes, the cost of goods will go up, the time to travel, all those things will go up, but people might feel safer. Will the road toll come down? Probably not. Will police take longer to get to your house in an emergency call when they have like more than 60 per 24 hours? Yes, it will take longer because the new cars they got don't like Lincoln Road. So they will take alternative routes and rat run because they're made for flat roads. So we do need to ask the public whether they believe these platforms are the way forward. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I believe we don't have a mandate. Everyone else is voting on whatever else they're voting on here, thinks that this isn't worth debating, which is the cycleway. Yep. We're voting on whatever else we're voting on. And that is why Yanni is correct, because you're not reading the room, okay? And no one here who sits at this table had an overwhelming majority to make decisions on behalf of anyone else. No one here got more than 50% of their community say, you should be my councillor. We're minority councillors making mostly decisions on our views. Some of us scraped in, some of us got in by a bit more, but none of us have more than 50% support of anyone in our community. Let's always keep that in mind. We don't have everyone's view, so let's go out and ask it. And 47 is not asking when 2/3 of them in this year said no. 2/3 said no, but when 2/3 say no to something in this council, it normally goes
Rightio. So we have a mover and a seconder. We do. And so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Abstain? Aaron and Yanni. So that is, and Andre's abstaining as well, so that is carried.